Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now, welcome back. So we are talking about Joe Canning, who has announced his inter-county retirement this afternoon. We don't really need to give Joe an introduction. I think everybody knows the deal. But some of his achievements include back-to-back minor All-Irelands, under-21 winner in 07. Same year he won the Fitzgibbon with Limerick IT. 4 All-Irelands with Portumna. Obviously 2017 All-Ireland winner with Galway. Hurler of the Year in 2017 as well. 5 All-Stars to his name. He is the all-time championship top scorer. He passed by Henry Shefflin's record at the weekend. And even small other things like sideline cuts. He has 28 championship sideline cuts to his name. Next on that list is 9. Austin Gleeson, Mick Moreney of Clare with 8, and so on. I mean, he got 4 in one match against Waterford in the semi-final just last year. So even that was another wonderful string to his bow. So he was speaking this afternoon doing various media events, and he was saying, I told the boys in the dressing room, and he said, I'll keep playing with Portumna. I was humming and hawing about saying it publicly. Then I was talking to my brother after. He said I should probably just cut out all the questioning. There's been a lot of people wondering, would I, wouldn't I? So I just decided to end it all. And he was talking about injuries. He said, I've had a couple of fairly serious ones over the year. He said 11 injuries this year alone. Tore his hamstring after the Waterford League game. He wants to be able to train the whole time and offer the same as everybody else. He said he has a thumb injury, finger injury, his heel, 4 or 5 niggly ones, just not getting easier for me is how he put it. So he said, I just feel the time is right. I don't want to stay around too long either. I just and just being there for the sake of it. So that was Joe Canning speaking this afternoon. Just by quirk of coincidence, we had the great Cyril Farrell on last night, and we were talking about Galway more than anything and their disappointing season. But Joe Canning came up, and I was putting it to Cyril that a couple of people had maybe said, would Canning retire possibly? And Cyril was just giving some memories of Canning in the midst of the conversation, talking about maybe the first time he saw him.
Yeah, he was unreal. I remember a college game when we had him in LIT. He was unreal, brilliant at time. He took a line ball, cut it just wide, and went wide the near side, and kind of said to my and G. Joe, I said, look, he was the wide the far side, get it across the goal. So the same thing the second half, which is the same position but playing the other way. So he cut it over the middle of the cross, and kind of looked at him and say, here, there's for you now. Like he just says he has phenomenal scale, 21-yard frees, like, you know, he has all them things that just comes natural to him. But like, he grew up in a hurling family. Like, his father hurled for years with Portumna and Clymer, a good tough heart hurler, and all the blood was hurled with Portumna. Like, sure, Ollie was probably one of the best cornerbacks that, if not the best cornerback that Galway ever produced, and was very unlucky not to win All Ireland. Like, so he would be steeped in coming up as a young lad in hurling, and he'd been at all the sessions with Ollie training for the minors 21. Joe being there as a young lad, pucking back, he'd be all with him, you see. So like, you know, he had it from an early age, and he just developed a phenomenal skill. Like, you have players at the moment like Pat Hogg and these guys, Tony Kelly, you know, they're unbelievable. TJ Reid, like, they come every maybe 5 or 10 years, kind of unreal hurlers. Same with Shamie Cannon came there with Tip Roy. Like, these guys, the McGrath, they just have so much skill that they can do things, and then you expect them to do every day. And sometimes that doesn't happen. If that's shooting, but you just can't do that. You just, you know, you have to realise what the lads are given. Anyone can have a bad day, but like, to me, Joe Cannon is one of the greatest hurlers ever. But down the same as Henry Sheffler, these guys, you know, they're up there at the top rank.
So that was Cyril Farrell speaking last night. Before we knew Joe Canning was intending to retire, very happy to say we have Liam Griffin with us. Hey, Liam.
How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, very well. Great to have you with us. Michael Duignan as well. Hi, Michael.
Good, Joe. Thank you.
So listen, where do we start on this fella? Michael, I think a lot of people nationally remember the game against Cork. He'd made his debut against Antrim for Galway, and then he scored 2-2 in a qualifier against Cork. Brilliant game, very dramatic, Michael. That was probably the first time I remember seeing Canning. I don't know what your early memories are of him.
I suppose, Joe, look, you can really clip that Cyril Farrell piece. A lot of things I was going to say, you know. I remember him back from his minor days, 2004, I think he was only 15. I think his birthday was late in the year. I think it's October sometime. So he was only 15 when he won that minor All-Ireland in 2004, and he came straight onto the Portumna team. So, like, I'd be from St. Ryan's originally in Bannerhill, which is not that far away from Portumna, so would have been very aware of him from that age. And I suppose, like, that's 17 years ago, and even though he's 32, maybe 33 this October, like, he's done some amount of hurling, I suppose, Joe, since he burst on the scene. You know, you listed there, like, the club hurling, the underage with Galway, the Fitzgibbon stuff, and then obviously all the years then and it's a hard thing to do to come on at that age. I'm trying to, you're thinking of the likes of maybe, a couple of lads I would have heard of, Brian Whelan and Johnny Dooley. They were kind of superstars from under 16, like Owen Kelly, maybe in Tipperary, DJ from a very young age. But there's very, very few that have that reputation at that age and then carry it right throughout their career and then achieve what Joe has achieved. So it's been a pleasure watching him. And look, there's so many games, so many stories, some of the incredible skills. I think that goal against Kilkenny, was it in the 15 Leinster final, the one he caught running, over his head, running in and spun and buried it, even to have the awareness of where he was. And I suppose the attributes that he had, size, fitness, power, and that skill that Cyril talked about there, but I suppose also that desire to, I think that was the only thing ever in Joe Canning's head, or Ali Canning's head, was to be the best for Galway. And you're kind of born with that. I don't think you could coach that man forever, or coach loads of kids forever, but very, very few are ever going to be what Joe Canning was. So look, I was a bit surprised today, because I know he was talking to you, he was talking recently, maybe as recently as yesterday, about people were trying to retire him, but he obviously had made up his mind last week, and look, he goes out on an awful high, and he's given us all great memories, so the very best luck to him, and a gentleman off the field as well.
Yeah, Liam, one of the greats. You must have seen him young as well.
I did. I was involved with a Wexford team that played in the Arabon final, which is the under-16 All-Ireland Championship. Technically, well, it's not officially, but it's the Arabon tournament with all the best teams in Ireland playing it. And I remember we were doing very well. We were winning by 2 points, I think, with a minute to go, or we were screaming for time up anyway to try and make sure the ref heard us. But there was a sideline cut right beside us in the middle of the field, and this guy comes over and puts it straight over the black spot, and then went back into the half-back line, picked up another ball, was fouled, and put that over the bar. And I just said to somebody from Galway on the sideline, who the hell is that young lad? I've been watching him. He said, he's Joe Canning. And I said to him, is he Yatton Diwali? He said, yeah, he's his brother. I said, well, I'll tell you one thing, you go back home and tell Ollie, he's not even a superstar in his own house anymore. This fella's fantastic. We're going to see a lot of this fella. So that was the first time I saw him, and we had a replay, and he gave an exhibition in the replay, and they beat us in the replay. But he was 15. Your man said, by the way, he said, he's underage again next year. And I said, oh, you're what? And he's underage again next year. And he was 15 years of age, and he gave an exhibition, and you could see he was absolutely amazing. Same as Richie Hogan, when I saw him as a young fella. Several of these fellas, they were good when they were 12, they were good when they were 13 and 14, and developed on from there. And look, he's a fantastic player, there's no question about it. And Michael Duignan, by the way, was a fantastic player as well, as Henry Shep and all these fellas. So there's a whole lot of guys that are really, really superb in the modern game. And he's certainly an icon of the modern game for sure.
Here, Liam, I didn't bring you on to give Duignan a big head here. Keep that.
Well, he's entitled to a big head, and he's doing a great job with Offaly at the moment. And I'm delighted to see Offaly coming back, because we were privileged to play them and beat him. And he nearly bet us himself. He went and got a bloody goal about 30 seconds after we got one. So he was some hurler as well, as was Johnny Pilkington and all that Offaly team. Well, they were a fantastic team.
No, it's true.
About Joe Canning.
Tell me this, Liam. Did I hear your son had to mark Canning in an underage game as well?
Well, we played Galway in the All-Ireland quarter-final in the minor. And Joe Canning was full forward, and Rory was right half back for Wexford. And going out, Sean Collier, who used to train the senior team with me, I said, I hope to Christ I don't move Joe Canning over on my lad, because there's only one way we're going to stop him. We may get a gun. So anyway, he came over on him after about 5 or 10 minutes. And the first thing he did was grab the ball over his head, turned around on the sideline straight over the bar. But to be fair to Rory, he did well on him, because he kept batting the ball away on him. Okay. But they took him off him and brought him in corner forward about 5 minutes to go. And he got 1-3 in we were winning by 4 points or something. And he got 1-3 in a couple of minutes. He was absolutely brilliant, because he was a bit confined where he was playing at the time. So, look, Rory dodged a bullet that day. Anyway, that's for sure.
Michael, for a lot of Canning's Galway career, and even, we were guilty of it on the show as well, when things weren't going well for Galway, there'd be a lot of heat on Joe, and the second question almost in any analysis piece would be, how did Joe play? And it was like Joe and the other 5 forwards type stuff. He carried a lot with that Galway team for a very long time.
He did, Joe, and look, we've all been involved like I've been involved throughout Joe's career, either on analysis or commentary, and we've all been guilty, I suppose, of questioning him a little bit over the years, and I suppose that comes with the territory when you're that good. When you're not doing it to scoring the sort of 112 or 50, every day and carrying the team, the questions are asked. And there was a lot of question marks over his best position. He obviously was a full forward, really. It was his best position, and then he sort of became a playmaker at centre forward, and then but as the years went on, then the game changed. I think that suited him because he could play wing forward. We saw midfield even this year, laterally, but even with the club, he would have hurled everywhere. And I suppose that's unfortunately comes with being at the very, very top level. And if you were Henry Shefflin with Kilkenny and that great team, you had Martin Comerford, and you had Eddie Brennan, and you had Owen Larkin and Richie Power and all these lads around you. And even I suppose maybe TJ is doing something similar, because Kilkenny maybe wouldn't be rated as highly. Obviously, it's not as successful as that team. So when you're doing that role on your own, there's much more focus on you to be the main man every day. And I suppose that's what I suppose. And Liam, thanks for your kind words. But look, I was very much part of a team, of an office team. I wasn't. I was a foot soldier with the superstars, but like the Brian Whelans, like they're the ones that really define whether you win or lose at the end of the day, how they perform, and carry that pressure from such a young age. I suppose every day he went out, and Liam has talked about Arabon matches and that, and that just followed on and on and on and on. And his club performances with Bertumna, like some of them were just unbelievable, and some of the scores he got. I was down there for a brief spell after the one All-Ireland 2009. Johnny Kelly, who was on coach, and often asked me to go down in 10 just to give a hand or maybe freshen things up, and they ended up getting better in the replay in the county semi-final and haven't won a championship since. So maybe I finished them off. I'm not sure, but I remember commenting to people afterwards that Joe and Ollie used to do a lot of drills together, and I actually don't think I ever saw either missing the ball, and that's been genuine. No hard, this or that. They all miss ball is coming, attacking the ball. Their skill level was unbelievable. Like John Choi was the only one, and it's funny, John grew up in a big family of boys in Lusmna, and he'd often tell you that to be burying balls at each other from the time he could walk nearly. And John became a great goalie before he went outfield, and he said you'd be a good goalie too if a ball was coming at your head at a million miles an hour, you'd stop it as well. And you had that feeling about the Cannons, like that they were just like the Dooleys as well, and all these great families, the Fennellys, that rough and tumble, developed them so quickly, physically and mentally and skill-wise, and so I think there was pressure. There was a lot of it from maybe within Galway, from outside Galway, but I think he carried it well and lightly in terms of his demeanour. He always was very calm and didn't tend to react over the years, and I think great credit to him. And I think he developed, as a person, I think developed a lot of businesses and everything else over the last number of years, and it's great to see that. I think he understood where he stood in the game and carried it so well, and brought it into his general demeanour in life as well, which is not an easy thing to do. So, he's been exemplary, really.
Yes, yeah. And Liam, I mean, so many great players don't win All-Irelands by dint of where they're born and who they play for. Canning got his moment with Galway in the end, and you think of the great point at the death against Tipperary, for instance. Like, he did have that magical win in the end, and it just really would have felt very wrong if Joe Canning and Galway in that era hadn't won at least one All-Ireland. Yeah,
I would, but I have to say, and I mean this with respect, like, he deserved more than one All-Ireland if it to be coming from Galway. And Galway actually were mercurial, you know what I mean? Galway have been underachievers in terms of winning All-Irelands, doing great at underage, but it hasn't come through. And I can't believe, like, that Joe Canning, when you look back and you say he's got one All-Ireland medal, and you would have thought, like, if he was in Kilkenny, he would have, he'd be able to decorate with All-Ireland medals. I mean, it's just, like, it's such a pity that a man like him, I'd go to just see Joe Canning play because he was that good a player. But it's just amazing that he's won All-Ireland medal out of a county that's produced so many fantastic hurlers. And that's a pity. But look, one is better than none, and that's for sure. And there are a lot of lads playing in counties who haven't won All-Ireland medals, and they've been playing very good stuff. But we're going to miss him, and I like the way he retired as well. No messing around, just that's it, I'm done and I'm gone. And I think that was dignity as well. And I found I thought he was always a dignified player. I always thought he was he carried himself very well. And, it's just, we say we won't see another one. Of course we will. I mean, Christy Ring had said the hurlers, the best ones are still to come. And maybe so. But, I mean, we've had some fantastic players. And you'd have to say that Joe Canning is right up there on equal with any of them that we've seen, even though he doesn't have the same amount of All-Ireland medals.
Right, because I was going to ask you that, because, I mean, you've seen them all, Liam. So you have Canning in the top echelon of anything we've ever seen.
I would have him absolutely in the top echelon. I wouldn't separate a lot of fellas from each other. He was a better hurler than Henry. Now that might sound bad, but technically he was a better hurler. Henry had to work much harder for the qualities that he had. Like Henry didn't Henry didn't get on a Kieran's team in college. Now he may have got him one in sixth year, I'm not sure, but. Like Joe Canning was shining from the time he was a bit younger. Henry had to, and that's where he deserves great credit. Henry does. He had to work so hard for it. But we've had we've had so many great hurlers. I would say you can't separate them out because they all came from different angles. But I would definitely put Joe Canning as one of the greatest hurlers I have ever seen play the game.
Yeah. I suspect you agree, Michael. And the funny thing is, and you sort of made a really interesting point there, that Canning understood his standing in the game even from a young age and behaved accordingly. The thing with Joe Canning, Michael, is he's been like a living legend throughout his whole career. Like, we were always going to be, whenever the retirement day came, talking about him as one of the greatest ever. And look, he probably knew that in his own realistic, humble way as well.
Well, these players do, I think, and like someone would take up on Liam's point from a young age. DJ Carey, Brian Whelan, Owen Kelly for Tipperary, Johnny Dooley for Withersides as well, and Henry didn't come with a big reputation. Neither did TJ Reid. It took him a while, but they're obviously all-time greats now. Eddie Kerr going way back, as a minor coming onto the scene at the end of 59. But like, he's up there, Patrick Corgan, who we've seen with Cork, and he is like, and I think comparing players and who's better than who, like the medal thing is interesting because. Like Henry Shefflin has 10 All-Irelands and 11 All-Stars. So you can't argue with that. But does that mean he's better? So some people do put a lot more weight on the fact that you won so many medals. But when you're in the county, doesn't have the players that maybe Joe had around him. He can really do what he can do. And I think in a funny way, maybe that one All-Ireland would mean as much as the 10 that Henry had. If you know my point, that if he had retired without it, I think I think it was a huge thing for him to get over that line, and for Galway. But, Galway, we'll be talking about, I'm sure, for many years to come in terms of what they could win and should win and don't win maybe and might win. That's part of their DNA. The club rivalry down there, I've talked about it many times over the years, can be very, very intense. And I think Joe, coming on the scene early, that was a big part of the story with some of the treatment he got down there. But he just got on with all that, and look, there's only so many things I suppose we can say about him. But just, I suppose, like some of the moments, some of the things, and we're seeing it again now, maybe with the likes of Cian Lynch and these lads as well. Like as Liam said, they do keep coming. It's amazing that the standards. You say we'll never see another Kerr, we'll never see another Kerry, we'll never see another Whelan, we'll never see another TJ Reid, and now we have, and there's lads coming again, and the Kyle Hayeses of this world that'll lighten up our game, and it's just what makes hurling so brilliant. But Joe Canning will go down in history as one of the greats. People can put him as wherever they want, but to me, he's in the top 5 forwards I've ever seen play the game.
I think if he hadn't won the one with Galway, Michael, it would have been used as a stick to beat him. I think when he wins one, fair enough. Like, he's not from Kilkenny, people get that. But if they hadn't got the one, I just think there'd be question marks about him or his temperament or why couldn't he get it done. That would have been thrown at him, I guarantee you.
Well, look, it would be, because, that is, look, and Ollie, his brother, he's in the same, Ollie was one of the greatest players I've seen in my time involved in hurling, and he didn't win that Ireland, but, and there's been loads more in other counties, so, it's an unfair stick to beat with, but Joe Canning would be judged on a different level, so to have that medal, and particularly then to play such a massive part in them getting over the line, to end up being hurler of the year, that point against Tip that you referenced earlier, all these performances that year were so brilliant and composed, and especially, I've talked about this before, the pressure as the years passed from, Galway winning, and then to win that year, and Tony Keevy died, and everything that happened, it was really it was a lot of things coming together for Galway hurling, and for some reason, like a little bit unlucky not to build on it maybe since then. They haven't been far away. But Joe is going to be a huge loss to Galway hurling. He's going to leave a massive hole in their team, I think, in their dressing room, in their whole setup, the confidence and the demeanour that he brings to the table. And look, it's time for Galway to give young players a head, I think, and there's a shake-up needed there. And maybe Joe senses that. And again, like he's done throughout his career, he knows this is the right thing to do for Galway hurling, and he's moving on. Yeah,
well, listen, he'll be missed. Extraordinary career. Liam Griffin, thanks so much for coming on. Michael, appreciate it. Michael Duignan, thank you.
Cheers, lads. Good to talk.
Thanks, Joe.
Off the ball on News Talk.
On Friday, October 15th, people all over Ireland will be sleeping